Okay, welcome to episode 4, which is going to be about using a noise gate and filtering. But before I do that, I want to make another correction from the previous video. This is a classic example of why you need to listen to your mix on multiple systems. Because what we did with the synth left and right sounded all right on headphones.
I'll be here in the morning.
However, I just happened to switch to my monitors at the end, sitting in the sweet spot as I should, and you know what? I'll have a listen to what I've done so far, and the synth sounded completely different. And I thought, well, why is that? And I noticed straight away that we recorded the synth in stereo, which I had forgotten. I thought that it was a mono track, which is why I'd duplicated it. And that means that there's some very strange, because we've now got two stereo tracks layered on top of each other, and they're set, one's effectively slightly off skew with the other, it created some very odd bouncing around when it was on the separated monitors as opposed to the headphones. So let's look at these synth tracks again. Right, now if you hold Command, which is the Windows key on our keyboards, and you click on oh no, not Command, sorry. If you hold Control, that's right. If you hold Control and click on the pan controls on the mixer, not on the track header, on the mixer, you can see the stereo pan, right, for the stereo control, and that is what we've come up with effectively so far, and that is that's why we're getting some weird effects going on. So I'm actually going to take out synth left. Right, I'm going to revert to just calling this synth. Right, and then I'm going to set this back to being in the middle. Okay, so it is already spread wide
'Cause I'm just floating.
because it was recorded like that.
Your cigarette still burns. Your messed up world with you.
And actually, you can hear it's recorded in stereo because you got some notes happening in the right channel, some notes happening in the left channel, bouncing backwards and forwards, which is what the synth was producing as a stereo instrument when it was being recorded. So, of course, we've made a correction. We need to evidence that. So here comes a screenshot. Going to duplicate these as before. Take that out. At this point, I decided to listen to the whole song again on monitors rather than headphones, and the synth stuck out to me. Now you can listen on monitors at any point. All you have to do is save it onto your card, take it into the studio and listen on the monitors in there. That's one of the reasons why we have that set up. So you can do that, and that's why I've put that in here. I realized that this is because the track was already recorded in stereo. And as a result, there was some odd bouncing around of sounds on the wider monitors I didn't like. As a result, I deleted one of the duplicate tracks and switched the pan to stereo on the mixer in Logic to see that it was already set wide, and this removes the strange effect that I had created. There we go. So we're doing really, really nicely in terms of our evidence, our screenshots, our blog, and next up is the noise gate. So let's get into that. So we know, because we've listened to it in class. Sorry about this, Alexis, by the way. We know that if you listen to just Alexis's vocal,
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning, 'cause I'm just floating.
okay, we've got quite a lot of extra sound. We've got a bit of background noise. We've got a few, how shall I put this, mouth noises and that kind of thing. And we could do with getting rid of that. So here's how to do that. We're going to apply a noise gate onto the main vocal track. So it's in audio effects. And I'm going to go to, it's under dynamics, noise gate, and it's mono. So there we go. Now, my starting point with a noise gate is usually the tighten up preset. There's nothing wrong with using presets, but we are going to tweak it somewhat. So if we listen to that.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning, 'cause I'm just floating.
And you know what? That's pretty good.
Your cigarette still burns.
Okay, so what the noise gate is doing is when it's open, it's
You messed
allowing
up
sound
world
through the
will
gate,
thrill me.
and when it's closed, it's not. So it's cutting off whenever the volume of the track or the level of the track drops below a certain threshold. And the threshold is over here. Now you can hear just in a couple of places it's a bit stark in the way that it cuts things out. It's a bit sudden.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning.
Okay, now some of that we can take out with a little bit of reverb, which we're going to add later. But it's worth playing around with the threshold setting. So let's put cycle on and just listen to that very beginning bit.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning.
Small adjustments.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning. Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning.
That sounds a little bit more natural.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning.
Okay, now there are plenty of other things that you can change. You can change the amount that it's reduced by. So it could be that you don't want all of the sound to disappear completely. So you might put it to, I don't know, -10 or something like that rather than -100. You can change how far it's looking ahead. So what the filter is doing is it's looking at what's coming up and it is planning for when it's going to open and when it's going to close. You can adjust that. All sorts of different parameters that are worth having a play around with. But that
Listen close and don't be stoned.
does get rid of the noise from the mouth, shall we say. Do we have anything similar to that on the double track? Oops, take the cycle tool off.
Alice and I side were sinking. There's nothing here but that.
Yes, we do. So let's duplicate that. Now, for me, if you want to duplicate a plugin, it's Option and Command together. I can't remember exactly what those keys translate to on the school keyboards, but I'll work it out. And I'm going to put it straight on both. Now, let's see if exactly the same settings. Let's just check that they've ported across. Yep, -32. Let's see what that sounds like.
Alice and I side were sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Oh, that's interesting. So we've got a little bit more clip there. Let's try some adjusting.
Outside your room, your sister's spinning, but she laughs and tells me it's just fine. I guess she's out there somewhere.
Okay, so just knocked it back to 34 there. We need to do the same thing here. Let's try all the vocals together.
Allison, our side was sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Okay, so we've got some nasty stuff there. Take that out.
There's nothing here. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Okay, so the effect of the gate there is actually producing some clicking sounds.
There's nothing here, but that's okay. There's nothing here, but that's okay. There's nothing here, but that's okay. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
We've got 3 different gates here working together.
There's nothing here, but that's okay. There's nothing here, but that's okay. There's nothing here, but that. There's nothing here.
We're getting there. And of course, I could use a bus for this.
There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Alright, let's have a listen to that as a whole.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in.
Yeah, I don't like that beginning.
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in. Listen close and don't be stoned. Allison, our side was sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay. Outside your room, your sister's spinning. Allison, our side was sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Yeah, okay. So it might be that we need to adjust them individually a little bit. We've got 34 on the double track and 32 on the main vocal in order to keep the verse intact. So it would be worth playing around those a little bit more. I'm not going to spend ages and ages and ages, but you can tweak. And we don't have to use my settings. In fact, you shouldn't use my settings. You should find your own settings. What does that sound like in context?
Listen close and don't be stoned. I'll be here in the morning. 'Cause I'm just waiting.
I like it. How about that little bit of clicking that we have?
Allison, outside was sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Not an issue on the main mix, so that's good. Yeah, so that is how to apply a noise gate. Now, if you wanted to go a step further with gating or filtering, we have got a lot of bleed on various different microphones. So, for example, the kick drum mic, right? You can hear most of the kick. Most of the kit. Now that's okay, that's just adding to the overall feel of the kit at this stage. But when we come to be adding things like compression and EQ, it could be that you don't want to compress all the sound that's bled through. You just want to compress the kick itself. So you could use a noise gate or some filtering on the kick drum to just pull out what is actually there in terms of the kick. So if we go to the kick drum, okay, now I'm going to use, there's a percussion one. Okay, now at the moment everything's disappeared. So if we change the threshold back, we want to be as close as we can. Okay, so again, at -20, nothing's coming through. You've still got a little bit of bleed because, you know, there are cymbals and things happening at the same time as the kick drum. Now that works for that particular volume, but if Michael increases or decreases his volume, so we're going to add a little bit of margin for error. So that means on that track we've now got far less other stuff. We've got the kick drum whenever we want it. Let's put that back into context. Now we've said already that we had some issues with the snare. So let's have a look at it and see if it's worth gating the snare. Again, using the percussion gate. Now you can see we've got some traces for snare here. Let's take it off. Okay, so we were losing some of that snare, so that's not working as it stands. Okay, let's put a bit of margin for error on that too. And that's worked out quite nicely. So that means that when you come to add effects later, you're effectively not adding compression or EQ or whatever it is to the whole kit via the bleed, but you're going to be adding it specifically to the bit of the kit that you actually want. So let's listen to that in context.
It tells me it's just fine. I guess she's out there somewhere.
Okay, so now, for the first time really, we're sort of into level 3 technique, as it were. We're into something that's going to make you stand out from, from level 2. Something which is a little bit more advanced, something which is a little bit more useful. Definitely wouldn't expect people to be using noise gates at level 2. So let's do some write-up of this. So screenshot. And the reason I put noise gate in particular is because it is mentioned on your assignment brief for duplicate of the wrong slide. Is it only screenshot 11? Feels like a bit more than that. Let's put it in. Here we go. There were a number of extra sounds captured on the vocal track that I wanted to eliminate. These include background noise due to the isolation not being as good as it could have been, and also, let's call them mouth noises. In fact, let's put that in quotes. To get rid of these, I decided to use a noise gate. This cuts all sound, no, this cuts all level when a certain threshold, no, this cuts all level until a certain threshold of sound is detected. This is a plugin that can be applied through the mixer. I started with a preset called Tighten Up. In fact, I should probably put that in. Let's open that. Where is the main vocal? There it is. In fact, that's a better screenshot. See, working live, changing things as I go along. Some excessive clipping of sounds on the track, so I adjusted the threshold to -32 dB. This resulted in the unwanted noise being removed, but maintained the quality of the vocal overall. Also applied gates to the backing, no, to the vocal double tracks. But had to use different threshold settings for this to get a good result. Alright, let's talk about the drums as well. I also applied noise gates to the snare and kick tracks. This is because there's a lot of bleed on these tracks from the rest of the kit. And this could affect how we apply effects later. For example, if we are looking to just compress the kick itself, then we don't necessarily want, that should be affect, oh poor English, to compress the entire kit. This could have unwanted effects. Again, I started with a preset, which is a percussion gate, but I put on the cycle tool. No, I didn't. But I adjusted the threshold and other settings until I kept all of the snare / kick strikes, but losing as much as possible of the bleed. There we go. Effective use of filtering, gating, okay, and you know, good examples there that have been demonstrated. So, what's next? Just having a look at my content. Oh yes, it's compression next. So we're starting to move into actual processing and effects. What will that be? That'll be episode 5. I shall see you for that.